The jungle had always been a mystery to Ibrahim Traore. Immensely beautiful, yet dangerous, serene, yet treacherous. On that day, the morning sun had not yet fully risen. A cool breeze rustled through the leaves of the trees. Military patrols were a routine matter in the hilly forests of northern Burkina Faso, but for Ibrahim, every mission held personal significance. He was a young, fearless, and sincere lieutenant. "There's some movement over here." A soldier pointed towards the bushes. Ibrahim raised his rifle and moved forward with slow steps. A strange sight awaited him amidst the bushes. A large, powerful, but severely wounded polar bear. One of its paws was torn, bleeding, and its eyes held not fear, but pain. The bear lifted its head with a groan, but Ibrahim lowered his gun. "No, don't shoot. It's injured, not an enemy," Ibrahim signaled to his soldiers. The soldiers looked at each other in astonishment. No military officer would even think of helping a wild bear, especially one so dangerous. But Ibrahim knelt, put on his gloves, and took out the first aid kit from his bag. "By God, if a human were in this condition, would we just leave them? This is also God's creation." He gently cleaned the bear's wound, bandaged it, and gave it water. The bear had stopped groaning. Its eyes were fixed on Ibrahim, as if it understood everything without understanding the language. "Sir, you should leave it. It will die in the jungle," a soldier said. Ibrahim replied in a firm tone, "No, it will come with me." The bear was carefully placed on a bamboo stretcher. Everyone was frightened, but Ibrahim's heart was at peace, as if he had laid the foundation of an unseen friendship. When the convoy reached the village, people's eyes were fixed on the wounded but magnificent animal. Upon reaching home, Ibrahim placed the bear in a clean spot in the backyard. It continued to groan, but the restlessness in its eyes was gone. Ibrahim's mother, Haji Amna, stood at the door, watching everything. Shadows of worry were on her face, as if time had shown her something. "What have you brought home, son?" his mother asked in a stern voice. "Mother, it's injured. If I had left it, it would have died," Ibrahim said softly. "Why do you feel the pain of animals more than that of humans?" Ibrahim remained silent. Then he said slowly, "Because animals are not hypocrites, mother." His mother took a deep breath and said, "Remember, son, animals are less dangerous than humans. But there are some humans who are worse than animals. Learn to stay away from them." That night, Ibrahim arranged for a blanket, milk, and medicine for the bear. He sat in the backyard himself, keeping a watch over it. The bear lay still, but Ibrahim's presence seemed to have calmed it. As he got up to go inside, a faint sound came from behind. The bear had struck its injured paw on the ground, as if to say thank you. Ibrahim turned around, smiled, and said, "The friendship has begun, Baba." The morning sun had spread its pale yellow light in the courtyard. Birds were awakening the atmosphere with their chirping. In the backyard of Ibrahim Traore's house, the wounded bear lay on a thick mattress with dry grass spread underneath. Its wound was still deep, but the intensity of the pain had lessened. Every morning, the first thing Ibrahim did was to check on it. Changing the bandage, giving it milk, administering medicine. He did everything himself. The soldiers were surprised how such a strict officer could take care of a wild animal with such tenderness. Haji Amna, the head of the household, was watching everything. Her face now had a thoughtful expression instead of sternness. "Mother, it eats very little. Maybe it wants something else." Ibrahim asked. "It just needs the pain to subside. When an animal feels trust, its body also finds peace," his mother said in a gentle tone. Ibrahim looked at her in surprise. "So you agree that it's not dangerous?" His mother laughed. "I'm a mother, son. If my child places his hand on someone, how can I not believe that they are not an enemy?" That afternoon, Ibrahim's younger sister, Zainab, who was only 12 years old, came to see the bear. In her hand was a small bowl full of honey. "Baba, will you have some honey?" she asked softly. Ibrahim looked up, startled. "Zainab, stay back. It can still be dangerous." But the bear only lifted its neck, closed its eyes, and started licking the honey with its tongue. Zainab laughed. "It likes honey just like me." From that day on, Zainab became a special person for Baba the bear. She would come to it every day, tell it stories, talk about her school, and the bear would just listen to her silently. Sometimes she would even place her hand on its paw, and the bear would remain still. One day, Ibrahim was sitting in the garden watching all this when his mother came to him. "Have you ever thought, son, when an animal trusts a human?" his mother asked. "When we can feel its pain without understanding its language," Ibrahim replied. His mother nodded her head. "Then also remember, the favor you are doing, nature will not let it go in vain." 3 weeks passed just like that. Baba's wound had completely healed. It could now sit up and drink water on its own. Whenever Ibrahim came near, it would place its paw on his shoulder, as if a friend was saying, "I am with you." Zainab now called it her companion. "Baba, I will not let you go anywhere." One night, Ibrahim was sitting in the courtyard drinking tea when the bear slowly came near him and rested its neck on his leg. "What's the matter, Baba?" Ibrahim asked. The bear's breath was warm, but it had a strange calmness. Ibrahim placed his hand on its forehead and said to himself, "If the people of the world were like this, perhaps there would be no wars." The bear was no longer just a guest in this house. It had become a member of the family. But the wheel of fate never stops in one place. Times change, seasons change, and someone has to go back someday. The 5th week had begun. Baba the bear was now completely recovered. Its paw was fine, the wound had healed, and it looked more energetic than before. But a dilemma was awakening in Ibrahim's heart. On one side was his mother's feeling, on the other his sister Zainab's love, and in between the silent relationship that had developed over time between a man and an animal. One morning, Haji Amna called Ibrahim. She had a cup of tea in her hand, and her tone was gentle but serious. "Son, the time has come. Now send it back to its world." Ibrahim remained silent. He avoided her gaze. "Mother, what if it doesn't go anywhere else and stays here?" "It belongs to the jungle, son. What we consider captivity is freedom for it," his mother said, placing her hand lovingly on his shoulder. When Zainab heard this, it was as if her world had fallen apart. She wrapped her arms around Baba. "No, I won't let it go. It's my friend, not a brother, but like a brother." The bear stood still, but a kind of moisture seemed to be floating in its eyes. That night passed in silence. No words were spoken. Only the sound of breathing and the beating of hearts could be heard. The next morning, Ibrahim made his decision. He took out his vehicle, spread a soft sheet for the bear, and sat it in the back. Zainab quietly hugged it and stepped back, but her eyes were ready to burst into tears. Her mother, standing at the door, said only one sentence. "Son, remember, if you are pure, nature will surely respond one day." The vehicle reached the inner part of the jungle. The shade of the trees had deepened, and the air was moist. Ibrahim stopped the car, opened the door, and let the bear out. It came out quietly, paused for a moment, and then looked around. "Baba, you are free. Go back to your world." The bear took a few steps forward, then turned and looked into Ibrahim's eyes. In those eyes, gratitude, separation, and an unspoken loyalty were reflected. The bear slowly raised its paw and struck the ground, as if making a promise. Ibrahim also raised his hand. "If we ever meet again, remember that I am the one who loved you like a brother." The bear silently disappeared into the bushes. Only its footprints remained. On the return journey, Ibrahim did not look back even once. But there was a strange peace in his heart, as if something had been taken away, but a new hope had also been born. Upon reaching home, Zainab asked only one question. "Did it cry?" Ibrahim paused for a moment and replied, "No, but what was in its eyes would make even a human cry." His mother looked up at the sky and said slowly, "Relationships are not made of blood, but of feelings, and feelings return in time." The bear was gone, but its shadow never left this house. After the bear left, the course of Ibrahim Traore's life changed. There was a silence within him, but that silence was deeper than noise. Time passed, and he continued to rise through the ranks of the army. The longing for humanity, justice, and truth in his heart grew stronger. He was no longer just a military officer, but had become a person who knew from within that oppression, in whatever form, ultimately spreads. During that time, the political system in Burkina Faso had become a victim of the worst kind of corruption. Gold mines were in the hands of foreign companies, forests were being cut down and sold abroad, and innocent farmers were being evicted from their lands. Everything was being sold: conscience, land, and the trust of the people. Ibrahim saw evidence of all these activities in military reports, but he was ordered to remain silent. But he knew that one who remains silent is also an accomplice to the crime. One day, he made his decision. A secret press conference was arranged. This was when he was a colonel, and military regulations kept him away from politics. But there was a storm in his heart. Standing in front of the TV cameras, he said, "I have a gun in my hand, but a pen in my heart. I will not remain silent anymore. Gold, oil, wood, all of this is our children's future, and you have sold it." The whole country fell into a stunned silence. For the first time, someone had laid bare the inner truth before the public. That same night, an order came from the president's office: suspend Ibrahim, place him under surveillance, and charge him in a military court. But nature had other plans. When this news reached the public, protests erupted in city after city. University students, farmers, laborers, everyone raised a single voice: Ibrahim is our representative. He cannot be silenced. One day, thousands of people were seen marching on the streets of the capital. In their hands was only one picture, that of Ibrahim Traore. At that time, an elderly teacher said on the media, "This war is not just Ibrahim's, it is ours. The one who saved a bear can also save our future." The military establishment became worried. The top generals came under pressure. They couldn't have imagined that a simple colonel would gain so much public support. That night, Ibrahim sat alone in his room, his head bowed before his mother's picture, reading something. There were tears in his eyes. "Mother, I spoke the truth. Now let's see where this truth takes me." A soldier knocked on the door. "Sir, the public outside is chanting slogans in your support." Ibrahim stood up, put on his uniform, and said slowly, "If the price of speaking the truth is my life, then I will pay this price. But I will not be a witness to a lie." There was noise on the streets, but it was not just slogans. It was the call of awakening. For the first time in the history of Burkina Faso, different classes were gathering around one person. Students, workers, farmers, even small businessmen and retired soldiers, all were saying the same thing: "We want justice, and our representative is Ibrahim Traore." Ibrahim himself was surprised. He had only spoken the truth, but this truth had now become a storm. His every speech was reaching millions of people. His videos were going viral on social media, and the public saw him not just as an officer, but as a symbol of hope. One day, Ibrahim gave a speech at a university. His words were heart-touching. "This is not just a war for gold. It is a war for the dreams of our generations. If we do not wake up today, our silence will become our slavery tomorrow." After the speech, students prayed for him, and many young people started working for him from that day on. The Tarore movement came into existence. Meanwhile, anxiety was growing in the circles of the government and the corrupt elite. They started resorting to accusations. Ibrahim is creating a rebellion in the army. He is a foreign agent. He is a threat to peace. But the times had changed. Now, not only the common people, but also the lower-ranking soldiers of the army began to stand with Ibrahim. They sent secret messages: "Sir, we are with you. We are tired of protecting those who are selling us." Ibrahim refused to lead a military rebellion. His vision was clear: "We will not rebel. We will bring an awakening. The power of the people is stronger than the gun." His simplicity, truthfulness, and fearless style won hearts. Women would show his pictures to their children and pray. Old people would say, "Perhaps this is the day we dreamed of. Someone who speaks our language, who listens to our hearts." Then the day came for which everyone was waiting. Millions of people gathered in the capital. A referendum was demanded in front of the parliament. Media from all over the world arrived to report. Ibrahim Traore was popularly nominated as the interim president of the country. But Ibrahim immediately said, "I don't want the presidency. I want to serve." If the people want to make me president, then first hold free elections. The country was in turmoil. International pressure mounted. And finally, the interim government announced elections within a month. During this time, Ibrahim said in a historic rally, "My hope is not in the gun, nor in the chair. My hope is in you. If you have woken up, then I don't need the chair. You yourselves are a revolution." And when the elections were held, that revolution turned into votes. Ibrahim Traore, a soldier, a son, and a sister's friend, became the country's youngest and most voted for president with the votes of the people. Ibrahim smiled and said, "Mother, I am going with the heart of a lion. Don't worry." But in his heart, his words echoed his mother's advice. The next day, the convoy entered the dense forest. The mountain roads were narrow, with clusters of trees, and the same air that held the fragrance of old memories, the memory of Baba the bear. For a moment, the day he had found the bear injured flashed in Ibrahim's mind. He thought, "I wish this jungle would protect us, just as we once protected it." But as they went deeper into the jungle, Ibrahim started to feel strange. The officers were avoiding his eyes. The driver had sweat on his forehead. Finally, the vehicle stopped at a deserted place. "Why do we stop here?" Ibrahim asked. An officer looked down. "Sir, the road ahead is blocked. We have to go back from here." Ibrahim looked into their eyes. "You are lying." Suddenly, another officer placed a hand on Ibrahim's shoulder, but not out of respect or for protection, but for betrayal. Behind him, the driver tried to knock Ibrahim unconscious with a poison needle. After a few moments of struggle, Ibrahim fell to the ground. "Forgive us, Mr. President," an officer said in a cold tone. "This jungle will now be your grave." They dragged Ibrahim out of the car, left him among the dense trees, and drove away. They were sure that the wild animals of the jungle would finish him off, and they themselves would loot the gold and sell it to foreign agents. Ibrahim was semi-conscious. He tried to open his eyes, but the world appeared blurry. He could only hear his mother's voice. "Son, animals are less dangerous than humans." The darkness grew. In the silence of the jungle, his breathing grew faint. But nature still had a secret in store. A secret whose answer would soon be revealed. In the dead of night, the silence of the jungle was terrifying. Semi-conscious, Ibrahim lay on the ground, his body drenched in sweat, his breathing erratic. The pain of betrayal had pierced his heart, and the effect of a needle was in his body. Everything before his eyes was blurry. Sometimes the frightening sounds of birds, sometimes a rustling in the bushes, and sometimes the growl of a predator. At that moment, he could hear only one thing, the echo of his mother's advice. "Son, animals are less dangerous than humans." His eyes were heavy, but suddenly there was a movement in the bushes. The sound of breaking twigs, the thud of heavy footsteps on the ground. Ibrahim, in his broken consciousness, tried to open his eyes, and his gaze fell on a blurry shadow. It was a bear, but this was no stranger. There were signs of recognition on its face and a faint scar of an old wound on its paw. It was the same bear. "Baba!" A faint whisper escaped Ibrahim's lips. "Baba!" The bear moved towards him and gently licked his forehead, as if cleaning a wound. Then, pushing aside the bushes with its paw, it placed fresh fruits in front of Ibrahim. Tears welled up in Ibrahim's eyes. He thought he was dreaming all this. Baba the bear changed its growl to a strange, soft sound, as if saying, "Get up, you're not alone." Ibrahim gathered his courage, took a sip of the fruit juice, and slowly his breathing began to return to normal. He looked into Baba's eyes, and for a moment, all those days came back to him when he had picked up the wounded bear, bandaged it, and let his sister Zainab play with it. Ibrahim's eyes were moist. Mother was right. Animals are more loyal than humans. But the amazing thing was that Baba had not come alone. A short while later, more bears began to appear from the shadows of the trees. 1, 2, 10, then 20. Their eyes were shining, as if they had all gathered here at Baba's signal. This was no ordinary crowd. This was the army of the jungle. Baba stood at the front like a leader. He let out a loud growl, and all the others responded. The jungle trembled. Ibrahim sat up with support. He said to himself, "This is the moment my mother talked about. Nature is repaying its debt." The bears sat in a circle around him, as if protecting him. The sound of gunshots was heard from a distance. It seemed that the corrupt officers and traders were still nearby, loading the gold trucks. Baba growled once more, and the army of bears seemed to get ready. A new courage rose in Ibrahim's heart. "Is this true? Have they all gathered here for me?" he said to himself. Baba, as if reading his thoughts, slowly came closer to Ibrahim and touched his shoulder with its paw, just as a human places a hand on a shoulder to give courage. Ibrahim bowed his head and said, "If this is a war, then I am also ready." The silence of the jungle was broken. Ibrahim knew that he was not alone, but with a whole army. But this army was not of humans. It was nature's own army, and the real game was about to begin. Laughter echoed. They were sure that Ibrahim was dead in the jungle. But they didn't know that the jungle was not going to remain silent. Ibrahim sat leaning against the trunk of a tree. His breathing was now under control, but his body was still weak. He looked at Baba. "Will you really do all this for me?" Baba let out a growl that made all the other bears stand up at once. The leaves of the trees trembled. Birds flew up into the sky. This was not the voice of an ordinary animal. It was a declaration of war. A determination arose in Ibrahim's heart. He tied his shoes tightly, took out a small pistol from his pocket, and said under his breath, "I am also with you. This war is not just yours, it is mine too." The army of bears began to move forward silently through the bushes. The sound of their footsteps shook the ground. As they approached the camp, Baba raised its paws in the air and let out a trembling roar. In a moment, all the bears attacked. The camp was in chaos. A traitorous soldier screamed, "What is this? Bears!" And the next moment, he was crushed under the paw of a giant bear. Guns started firing, but in the darkness of the night, the bears were moving like shadows. With each blow, the guards were being knocked to the ground. Ibrahim watched all this from behind a rock. The soldier within him had awakened. He took out his pistol and aimed at a traitor who was about to shoot a bear. The sound of the shot echoed, and he fell to the ground. Baba climbed onto a truck where sacks of gold were kept. It overturned the truck with its paws, and the golden glitter spread on the ground. The traitorous soldiers rushed at it, but other bears attacked them. The air was filled with a mixture of gunshots, screams, and growls. This was no ordinary battle. It was nature's justice. An officer, crawling on the ground, screamed, "Leave us. We were just following orders." Ibrahim came near him, placed the pistol on his forehead, and said, "Animals never betray their leader. It was you humans who sold your land and your own blood." The officer fell silent, his eyes downcast. In a short while, the camp was deserted. The bears had destroyed everything, overturned the vehicles, and overpowered the traders. The people who until yesterday thought the jungle was under their control were swallowed by that same jungle today. Ibrahim came near Baba, placed his hand on its forehead, and said softly, "You have delivered this justice." "Thank you, friend." Baba breathed on his face, as if replying, "This is just the beginning." The jungle fell silent, but a history was being written that night. A history in which the president was not alone. He had an army with him. But that army was not of humans, but of bears. The jungle air was still echoing with screams and growls. The sound of gunshots had died down. Clouds of smoke were floating in the air, and the glitter of gold was scattered on the ground, as if nature had laid out the traitors' greed on the floor of their own destruction. Ibrahim stood under the shadow of a large tree. His clothes were covered in dust, his face had scars, but his eyes had the light that is only found in the eyes of a true soldier. Dozens of bears stood around him, silent but ready, like guardians of a court of justice. The remaining traitors of the camp were now scattered on the ground like chains. Some half dead, some trembling with fear. Their hands were raised, their eyes begging for mercy. An officer, crying, said, "Mr. President, let us go. We were forced. We were given orders." Ibrahim slowly approached him. The growls of the bears made the silence even more terrifying. He looked into the officer's eyes and said in a cold voice, "Animals have never betrayed me. But you sold your country, you sold your land, you sold your own blood. You are not worthy of being called human." The officer fell to the ground, and one of the bears, growling, struck the ground with its paw, as if nature's verdict had been delivered. The traitors were surrounded and brought to the center. Baba stood at the front, his eyes like flames of fire. He let out a roar, and the other bears roared with him. It was the announcement of the court. Ibrahim looked up at the sky and said in a loud voice, "O earth, be a witness. These are the ones who tore your chest. O sky, be a witness. These are the ones who sold the future of their generations. Today, the time for justice has come." The bears attacked the traitors at once. The sound of screams echoed in the darkness of the night. But they were screams of justice. The justice that had been suppressed for years, but now nature itself had enforced it. In a few moments, everything was over. The camp was deserted, the vehicles were broken, and only silence remained on the ground. The bears stood back in a circle silently, as if waiting to hear the command of their leader, Ibrahim. Ibrahim took a deep breath and, pointing to the gold lying on the ground, said, "This gold is no longer for anyone to sell. It is the trust of the people." Then he looked at the bodies of the traitors and said, "Remember, the one who betrays is always a human, not an animal." These sentences echoed in the air as if they were being written in history. Baba the bear slowly came near Ibrahim and rested its head on his shoulder. At that moment, tears involuntarily fell from Ibrahim's eyes. These were not tears of weakness, but of gratitude. "Baba, you have repaid my debt," Ibrahim said softly. The army of bears slowly began to return to the darkness of the jungle. But as they left, their eyes held the promise that this relationship would never be broken. Ibrahim was left standing alone in that empty camp. But he knew that he was never alone. The jungle was with him. Nature was with him. The city was waking up. The night in the jungle was over, but all those scenes were still alive in Ibrahim Traore's eyes. The growls of the bears, the screams of the traitors, and the scattered glitter of gold that had exposed their greed. Ibrahim's steps were weak, but his heart was as strong as steel. He placed his hand on the ground and said, "O earth, today you yourself have delivered justice." A few hours later, a military unit reached there. The soldiers were stunned when they saw that the president was alive, but alone. No guards, no convoy, just a broken camp and scattered bodies. They couldn't understand how all this had happened. Ibrahim just said, "Nature has delivered its verdict. I will tell you the rest in the capital."